My name is Marcus Bergstrom, and I made a decision that has haunted me for 7 years. I was a radio technician for the Finnish Communications Authority, and when they posted the job for a 3-week assignment at the Kalteva relay station, I accepted without hesitation. 40,000 euros for maintaining automated transmitters in the boreal wilderness. It seemed too generous. When I asked where the previous operator had left so abruptly, my supervisor simply said the work wasn't for everyone. The station sat alone in the northern forests, accessible only by snowmobile. The main building was concrete and steel, surrounded by a 12-foot security fence. Inside, I had everything I needed: heating, food, communications equipment, and absolute solitude. The isolation felt like relief. My life in Helsinki had become suffocating. A failed career in television, a divorce I couldn't afford, creditors calling every day. On my 3rd day, the station director transmitted the standard warning: "Do not open the external doors after midnight. No exceptions, no matter what you hear." I asked why. The signal went silent for 30 seconds before he replied, "It's protocol. Follow it." I would have followed it. I was careful. I was rational. But nothing could have prepared me for what the 4th night would bring.
The temperature had dropped to minus 32 degrees. The wind came off the Arctic with primal fury, shaking the reinforced walls, howling through the ventilation shafts. I was monitoring the backup generators when it happened. The wind didn't fade gradually. It didn't diminish or taper into silence. It stopped, complete, absolute, as if someone had flipped a switch on the entire atmosphere. The sudden quiet was more terrifying than any noise could have been. My heartbeat became audible in my ears, rapid, frantic, responding to something my conscious mind hadn't yet acknowledged. Then the scratching began. It came from the external door, slow, deliberate, methodical. Not the sound of wind or branches, not an animal searching for shelter. It was the sound of long fingernails dragging across metal and wood. Scratch, scratch, scratch. I approached the door cautiously. Through the small reinforced window, I saw only darkness and falling snow. I told myself it was impossible. The perimeter fence was electrified. The alarm system was active. Nothing could breach it. I turned to leave. The telephone rang. The station landline, the line that connected directly to headquarters in a town 70 kilometers away. I stared at the phone, my hand trembling as I reached for it. The voice on the other end was my voice. Exactly my voice, but wrong, distorted, speaking in a rhythm that seemed almost mechanical, the words overlapping slightly, as if multiple recordings of me were being played simultaneously, slightly out of sync. Marcus? I'm out here. Let me in. I'm cold. I'm so cold." I dropped the phone.
The knocking on the window came in rhythmic bursts. 3 strikes. Pause. 3 strikes. Pause. A pattern. A message. A summons. I forced myself to look. The external light above the window was flickering, on, off, creating a strobe effect that fragmented what I was seeing into horrible snapshots. In one flash, I saw the figure standing directly against the glass. It was 7 feet tall, perhaps taller. The body was wrong, proportions stretched and elongated in ways that suggested something fundamentally inhuman trying to approximate a human shape. It wore the remains of a technician's uniform, fabric hanging in tatters from this grotesque frame. The worst part, its head was inverted. The spine had twisted at an impossible angle. The skull faced backward, rotated 180 degrees, so that I was staring directly into a face that should have been turned away.
The eyes were empty holes, pure black voids. The mouth was open so wide, the jaw seemed dislocated, stretched into a grin that no human face could naturally produce. One elongated arm raised, the fingers extended toward the window. Then it pointed, a slow, deliberate gesture toward the external door. An invitation, a demand. In that moment, I understood the security system hadn't alarmed because this thing wasn't outside the fence. It was inside the station. It had always been inside the station. I ran. I sealed myself in the equipment room. Reinforced walls, heavy door, no windows. As I pushed the steel cabinet against the entrance, I heard it move through the station. Footsteps, but wrong, too heavy, too irregular. Sometimes they sounded like something dragging itself across metal. Sometimes like weight being shifted in ways vertebrate bodies shouldn't allow. Then the mimicry began. It cycled through every sound I'd made. My cough, my laugh, the scrape of my chair, my breathing. And then it found something worse. My mother's voice, dead 8 years. It emerged from the darkness beyond the door, calling my childhood nickname, the one nobody had used since she died. Marcus, Elskling, where are you? Come out. Come home, darling. I covered my ears. I pressed myself into the corner. I wept. The night lasted forever. Dawn came. The station fell silent. I emerged with my knife, expecting to find evidence of forced entry, destruction, something to explain the night before. But the station was untouched. I walked to the window and looked outside. The snow had fallen steadily through the darkness, covering the ground in a pristine white layer. But pristine only in its smoothness. The surface was completely covered, absolutely covered, with handprints. Hundreds, thousands, overlapping, frantic circular patterns arranged around the entire perimeter of the building. The creature hadn't walked on its feet through the night. It had crawled on its hands, circling endlessly, while the snow fell around it. I left within the hour. I didn't submit reports. I didn't explain my departure. I drove south as fast as the roads allowed. But 7 years later, living in a city apartment surrounded by noise and people and light, I still hear the scratching. Late at night, when the wind picks up and moves through the ventilation system, I hear it, faint but unmistakable, coming from the other side of my locked bedroom door. And I hear my voice, my exact voice, now practiced at human speech after years of learning, asking me to let it in, telling me it's cold, asking me why I left it alone in the forest. Some nights I almost answer. Some nights I almost open the door.